Welcome to Hearts and Stripes, your one-stop shop for all things military marriage. I hope our discussions and interviews equip you with the tools to start or grow a beautiful marriage as we address the benefits and challenges of MILF marriage. I believe life's most precious moments are worth celebrating, so I'll help you design your marriage blueprint in alignment with your core values. Thank you for joining us, and remember to rate, subscribe, and review. Let's do this. Hello, and welcome to Hearts and Stripes. Thank you for joining this Heart to Heart. We are so excited to have you here as we strengthen military marriages together. So before we dive in, I just wanted to remind everyone that if you wanted to connect with us further, you can head on over to our Facebook group. That's Hearts and Stripes group on Facebook for more about Hearts and Stripes and how you can find the show notes. Head over to bcarolevents.com/hearts-stripes. So we are talking to Sandy today. She has 31 years of experience as a military spouse, and she is sharing her perspective as she has walked through life as a reservist and an active duty spouse, from officer and enlisted perspective. So much to share, so much wisdom, and we're super excited to dive in and find out more from her tips, all her secrets, and things that she has to encourage us to have a long, sustainable marriage. Let's get into it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on Heart and Stripes today. We have a special guest with us. We have Miss Sandy, who is going to be sharing her experiences. Go ahead and say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sandy Cutchin, and I'm a retired teacher. Been married 31 years. When we first met, he was a Sergeant E5.
Nice.
And we've been married 31 years, and we have been lower enlisted, upper enlisted, and officer. So active duty and reserves.
So tons of experience there.
Oh, yeah. There's not a whole lot I haven't seen, but the Army always seems to toss something out there.
I know. Keep you on your toes. I love it.
Definitely.
Awesome. So thank you so much for sharing a little bit about you and your experience. I guess I'd like to dive into that active duty and reserve side, and maybe you can even touch on the enlisted versus officer side. Like, what are some differences that you've seen as a military spouse?
The biggest thing I can let's start off with the active duty versus the reserves.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't understand that you have the stressors that an active duty marriage has, but with the reserves it's almost doubled, because you think about, they are doing their drilling, what we used to call drilling, called battle assembly. They're going to their unit every month for a weekend.
Yeah.
What you don't realize is they're working their civilian job that week before.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're traveling to the unit. They're doing the drilling. Then they're traveling back. And they're traveling back on Sunday and going back to their civilian job on Monday. So essentially, they're going 2 weeks without a day off.
Yeah.
So that's a huge stress. That is a huge stress. For some of us that were active duty, we have the stress of them going away for training missions. We have the stress of them coming back. But for a reservist, that's a monthly event. So there's a coping mechanism that you have, and for a lot of the spouses, for some of them, it's just completely ignoring that there's even a military side.
Wow.
And just handling that one person and treating it like it's a business venture. You're just gone every month for some other kind of business trip. and it really doesn't hit home until there's a deployment.
Right. Right.
So there's that, plus there's, the expense of the commuting, because you don't get extra pay, but for the Army Reserves to have a certain job at a certain rank so that you can get promoted, you have to find that job. And if you're like my husband, who's living in Florida, that job was in New Jersey. So every single month he commutes Florida to New Jersey. We have had friends who commuted from California to Virginia every month.
Wow. And I never thought of that. That's wow. And they're not getting compensated for any of that travel.
No.
Wow.
No. So it's an additional stressor that for a lot of people who are on active duty and are considering going in the National Guard or Reserves, they don't see that.
Of course.
So there's a huge discrepancy there that, I'd like to let the spouses know out there that you're going to have that, and you're going to have to pull from the tools that you had for the deployments. You're going to have to pull from them frequently.
Right.
So there's a lot more stresses, and depending on what the rank is, if you want to get promoted as an officer, you have to commute further. There are more availabilities for enlisted soldiers to find positions, but they still commute a good distance too. And just like the active duty, the majority of the who are enlisted are younger, so you're early in your marriage, and so you learn these things and you just have to just stick it out. You just stick it out. If you can't stick it out, for some of us, we just pretend we're sticking it out and stick it out anyway.
Right. And I think I'm so glad you brought up these different challenges, and that's what I'm going to call them. They're different challenges. We always think, oh, well, the grass is greener over on the active duty side, or the grass is greener over on guard or reserve side. And the reality is they still have challenges, too, that'll impact military marriages. The challenges are just different. So even from officer to enlisted, they're just different challenges. But still, everybody has to do the work, like you said.
Right.
And to have a successful relationship. So, yeah.
So I really appreciate you asking about this, because for the reservists, when they come back from a deployment, for active duty soldier, they come back and they say, okay, let's get back into the family life. And then they go back to the same unit and the same people most of the time, unless they would do the PCS move. They go back to the same soldiers who were over there.
Right.
Well, for the reserves and the National Guard, they're coming back, and they've had that tight-knit, really close camaraderie with those soldiers that were on either side of them. And they come back to a civilian job, and there isn't that.
Yeah.
And so the soldiers maybe have more difficulty readjusting.
Right.
And so for that, that's a huge stress on the family as well.
That's a great point, because in active duty, you could see that camaraderie and people can kind of adjust together, whereas on that other side with the reserve or your guard, they're kind of hanging out by themselves, trying to adjust.
Right.
And relying on their family or their spouse to kind of help them get through. And that can be very challenging because, like you said, if the spouse is still living a very civilian type of life, they may miss a lot of those signs of, the difficulties of adjusting.
Exactly. And that's, as a senior spouse now, I'm kind of taking up the cause to try and help out those families. So long before we have the redeployment, we're making contact with all the family and giving them those tools to know to watch for the depression, how to watch for the PTSD.
Yeah.
Because like I said, there are some families who, like you said, they have that civilian framework, have those coping mechanisms, and you don't have Army Community Service just on the block.
Right, right.
You know, so the support in the system has to come from the soldier family readiness groups, getting that information out. So it's vital that we build up our SFRGs to a higher standard.
Right. No, that's a fantastic point. I couldn't agree more. Now getting that better understanding of the challenges that they have, that absolutely is information that needs to get out and needs to be implemented with the family. And I think they'll see a lot of success once that information is passed on and actually used, because you don't know what you don't know, of course. But there are tools there to help families, so that's amazing. I did want to ask, what tips do you have? You've been there, done that, got the T-shirt, seen a little bit of it all. I know you have some valuable tips that you could share with us.
Number one, first and foremost, don't worry about the date night. Just every minute is a potential for a date moment.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Because the kids are getting away, or the dog will throw up on the carpet, and you know, the babysitter will quit on you. You don't have, a date night is fine, but sometimes just putting the kids to bed and sitting and watching TV and just holding each other. Yes. Or even, you know, my husband and I, when we first met, there was a rule that you were not allowed to show public displays of affection. You couldn't kiss or hold hands while you were in uniform.
Right, right.
So to overcome that, we would just do a pinky promise.
What is that?
And so that's where, remember when you were kids and you hooked your pinky with your best friend and you say, I promise?
I love that.
Those are our hugs. And we can do that when we're walking down the hallway, or, you know, it's just a way of you put your pinky up there and he joins my pinky, and that's our way of making that connection at any time of the day. That doesn't take a whole lot of time, but you just feel closer to each other.
That is awesome.
You know, the date night snack is a daily occurrence for us.
I like it. Daily occurrence. I love that.
The other thing I like to mention is when it comes to the work, so the work, when you have a civilian job, they can quit, find a different job. In the Army Reserves, you can't do that. So you can't go down the road, I told you so. I told you not to do this. Because once you make that decision, you can't undo it.
Right.
And so it creates a lot of tension if you're frustrated and he's frustrated. And you're saying, well, if you would just listen to me, you wouldn't be so tired right now.
Right.
Understanding the point of view that this is where you are. This is the foxhole you're in. This is the,
right.
This is your life. So placing that blame isn't going to help anything. The only thing that's going to help is when you hunker down with each other and you say, you know what, we're in it together. I always told my husband, if he did something or the Army did something that I didn't like, I would just look at him and I would say, you know what, when you're 80 years old in the nursing home and I slap you in the back of the head, this is why.
No, that's great.
Down the road, have a laugh. In that way, he knows how I feel. He knows that I'm frustrated when I say that.
Right.
But now that he's, approaching 60, he's saying, wait a minute, you're going to be beating the crap out of me.
Right.
There's a lot of beatings he's going to take when he's 80.
Hoping you forget. He's hoping you forget. That's all.
Definitely. And the other thing we always did is if we were in the middle of an argument and he had to leave, I never, ever, ever let him leave the house with the last thing being an angry word.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you don't know what's going to happen next.
Right.
You know, especially for some units that have that last-minute deployment. I don't know if they still do those in some units, but it used to be you kept your ditty bag in the car, and if you left in the morning, you may not be home that night.
Right.
And so it was always, you know what? I'm really mad. I love you. Push the pause button. We'll get this later. For right now, just concentrate on what you're doing. Be safe. I love you. And we'll handle it later.
No,
and
it
takes attention. Yeah. It not only takes attention from him, but also from you. You know, carrying all that around, it makes you have a bad day, makes him have a bad day. And just being able to push a pause button on that, and, you know, being able to just end a conversation that's going the wrong way by just saying, you know what, I'm sorry. Even though you're really not, you really don't want to, sometimes doing that is a way of saying, you know what, we've argued this to the end of the argument, and the only other thing that's going to work is to put it behind us.
Right.
So you just say, you know what, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. I didn't mean to. Sorry if I overspent all that money. Secretly, I did mean to, but I didn't really mean to.
Right.
You know, and just by saying it that way, it that's always kept our marriage on a positive note.
That's awesome. Yeah, just be positive. I absolutely love that. Date nights, not just a date night, but use every opportunity. Don't have that blame game going. No, I told you so. Yeah. And then always end with a positive word. Say you're sorry, because you really don't know what the next moment may bring. So that is so awesome. I absolutely love those tips. You are a wealth of information. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Can I give you one more bit of advice?
Yes, please do.
Oh, awesome. Good. There is, in the Army Reserves, the chaplains have a program called Strong Bonds.
Yes.
And what it is, they will pay for you to go to a hotel, and you spend the whole weekend with your spouse. They have childcare.
Right.
So it's technically a great weekend, but you walk away from there with some tools for communicating with each other. It's a phenomenal program. I really encourage everyone to check with your chaplain, and do these retreats. Do these events that you will build a really strong relationship.
Yes, absolutely. And I know those opportunities are offered throughout the military. Air Force has them. Army has them. Look into those different opportunities with your chaplain. I know they always have different programs and things focused on marriage, but take a word from the wise, that retreat, that'll be priceless. You know, that's time together. And look, you said my favorite word, and it's free, guys.
Yeah.
It is
Definitely.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much, Bree. I appreciate you having me on your program.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing that wealth of knowledge, your experiences as we just work together, share this heart-to-heart to build strong military marriages. So I'm so grateful for you being here. I think everyone has learned something. I know I certainly have. So just thank you again.
This podcast is sponsored by B. Carroll Events for wedding and event planning and design. All right, everyone, you know what time it is. It is time for us to EYS, earn your stripes. So Sandy gave us some amazing tips, her top 3, and even gave us a bonus in there, which the bonus, I know since we are all in from COVID-19, we'll have to see how that plays out when we connect with our chaplains as they reschedule a lot of these retreats. But what I want all of us to do for this EYS is to share which one of these three resonate the greatest with us. I know personally it is that first one with not waiting for a date night and finding those date moments, locking pinkies with my spouse as we battle these kids who are home together. But share. I want you to tell us which one of these three tips resonate with you. You can share this on our Facebook group, Hearts and Stripes group on Facebook, or you can send us a DM on Instagram. We're Hearts Stripes on Instagram. That's Hearts Stripes Instagram. We look forward to hearing which tip resonates with you. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to rate, subscribe, and review. This is Hearts and Stripes. We are the few and the proud that aim high and are forged by love. Born ready. We are Mill Marriage Strong.